Welcome to episode 24 of the Culture and Arts Podcast, live from the Entertainment Center here in our quality cap recording studio. Jason, good morning.
Good morning.
Man, I'm so excited about doing the cap this week. We have got one of those stories, one of those in the vein of Todd Fox and his, iconic flamethrower incident to the man who collected these speed VHS tapes.
Yes, the World Speed Project.
You have to go back into the Cap's catalog, listen to, the first, what we're on 24 today. So listen to the first 23 because there's some ridiculous stuff. And today we are, just going to continue in that great heritage of ridiculousness here on the Culture and Arts Podcast. Jason, how was your week, man?
My week is good.
The week is good. And it's been 2 or 3 weeks since our last recording.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks.
Seems to be the way that it goes, is we'll do an episode, and then we'll talk about doing an episode for 2 weeks, and then we'll do an episode. But we are here, and we are excited to talk to you today. And Jason, what is this grand, ridiculous person that we want to introduce to the Cap universe today?
Roger Tulgren.
Roger Tulgren.
He is receiving welfare for an addiction.
Okay.
An addiction to heavy metal.
To rock.
Yes. Now, I can say after reading this story, the only real relief I get is that this is the Swedish government. It's not ours.
Okay.
So we can take some comfort in that, but you can't help but think this is coming our way.
Yeah.
But I'll read a little bit of the story.
Okay.
Basically, it says, Tulgren, 42, claims a crippling disability for which he sought and received government assistance. The disability isn't MS, mental retardation, PTSD, or anything even halfway credible. Tulgren is addicted to heavy metal music, or so he claims. As an addict, he has sought protection and assistance from the government. And the article goes on to say that he usually tries to make it to about 300 heavy metal concerts a year.
300 concerts a year?
And the article points out there's about 250 working days in a year, so you can see how employers would get
frustrated. Yeah. I need the day off. I got a concert.
Yeah, he's essentially got a doctor's note from the government saying this is his condition, and you can't discriminate against him, and he gets government assistance.
Well, all right. So here's the thing: is if you're that dedicated to it, at least in the U.S., I feel like you could just start an online business where you're going around and you're essentially a media blogger, or, a press person for these shows, and you're giving people the skinny on these shows, audio, video, posting that stuff to your website, and you could eventually turn your passion into a project that'll make you some money.
There's got to be a way to get into the business if he's going to 300 shows a year.
Yeah, who else is doing that?
Right.
And then you could, in the U.S., if you were making money off of this website, said business venture, you could write off each one of those concert tickets as a business expense.
Right.
So, man, crazy that he would just go and opt to get government welfare benefits for an addiction. And to me, that says there's got to be some drugs or something. I don't know. He's got to have something, or he's headbanged a little too much and he's just not right.
May have headbanged into something.
Yeah. In the United States of America, our heavy metal tradition says, for those who are about to rock, we salute you. The Swedish way of heavy metal says, for those who are about to rock, we subsidize you.
Yes.
And this guy, oh my goodness, I would nominate him for the dunce cap if I wasn't concerned that he would headbang it off.
Right.
What do you think?
I might give it to the Swedish government for actually funding this guy.
There you go. We could give it to the Swedish government because, as we all know about government, if they were even going to attempt to take off the dunce cap, they would have to go through about 3 years of proceedings in order to make that happen. Government moves at a snail's pace, and often the snail would win.
Yeah, this is an issue where Sweden probably just should have stayed neutral.
Nice. So interesting. Heavy metal, of all things, to be addicted to. If you were going to have a strange addiction, let's open this can of worms.
Okay.
If you were going to have a strange addiction, and you knew that there's one thing in your life that was such a stronghold for you, if you had a strange addiction that it was so bad that you were going to seek some sort of government assistance, assuming that we were that ridiculous, what would that one thing be for you?
Well, I can throw two at you. The addiction that really does control my life is caffeine.
Okay. So soda or coffee? Or tea?
I'm trying to get off the soda,
Okay.
but I've been drinking more tea.
Uh-huh.
But at least there's a lot less sugar going that route. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I've been a pretty heavy soda drinker my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
If I could throw a weird one at you, if I could get like government assistance to sit around and watch sports all day, I would be the first in line.
Really?
Yeah.
You like sports that much that you
Yes.
could watch it all day?
Oh yeah.
Because I love pro wrestling, love pro wrestling, but Monday night is a 3-hour show, and that 3 hours always seems like way too much. So for me, it's like, the shorter the product, the better the product, the more I'll enjoy it and continue to be a loyal fan. I don't think I could do it all day long.
Right.
So sports and caffeine.
Yes.
And they usually probably go together, huh?
Oh yeah, I would say so.
You drink a Pepsi or a Mountain Dew while you watch the game?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, it would be network television, probably, because I watch like every show that comes on, just about.
Right.
It's very, very few times, and if I don't watch it immediately, I'll go back and watch it when I get bored during the off season of some other show.
Right.
Network television, fast food at one point I would have said was big time for me, but I've kind of gotten off of that in recent months. So I think probably just network television and Beyonce.
Well, yeah,
There's always Beyonce, but she's the queen. She's Queen Bey.
But to be honest, if you've ever seen the show My Strange Addiction,
Yeah.
that puts all of ours to shame.
Oh, they did a clip one morning on our radio station of an episode of that, and there was a woman who was addicted to eating deodorant sticks.
Yeah, I haven't watched the show in a while because it started to creep me out. But there was one lady who was addicted to eating Comet.
Comet?
The kitchen cleaner.
How did she not die?
That's a really good question. There was one lady who would eat toilet paper.
Yeah.
So much so she would take it in her purse if she went to a restaurant and eat it at the table.
That's disgusting.
And one lady would eat like the cushions out of her sofa.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy stuff. I don't know how you even start on that road, let alone end up that far down it.
Yeah. Especially the sofa cushions. You think that'd be an expensive one?
Yeah.
She was never taught you don't eat where you sit. I don't know. But, speaking of the Swedish government and governments who kind of, I guess every government, in my opinion, kind of moves at a snail's pace, and, they're terrible at what they do. I can't recall a government that's ever been, worth giving praise to, per se. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's talk about net neutrality this week. So the FCC this week passed a 3-2 vote that they would, and they've been trying to pass this off and on since 2010 or something.
Right.
So basically, it would, the proposal that they had in place was to treat the internet and make, I guess, ISPs or internet service providers all cooperate as though they were public utilities. So like water and electricity. Can you think of anything else that's a standard public utility? Sewage, maybe?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
But regardless, now apparently internet is now a public utility. The two people who voted against it were Republicans, and they were upset about two things. From what I understand, they were upset about the FCC usurping the authority of Congress.
Right.
And they were also upset about, it was like a 200 to 300 page bill that had been introduced, and they didn't take the time to read it and debate parts of it on the floor before actually making the vote.
Well, I saw that one of the guys that voted against it wrote a dissenting opinion that basically said this is the government passing regulations that won't work to solve a problem that doesn't exist using power they don't have.
Yeah. And what do you think the point of the actual proposal was? Because in my mind, it was just a control grab, But
right.
But I've heard people make an argument for fairness and all this stuff, and I don't really know what that means. Do you get that side of the argument?
Not completely, but I think what it has to do with is some websites where there's a lot of streaming involved, you know,
Like Netflix?
like Netflix. I don't know which side of this they were on, but let's just use Netflix as an example.
Okay.
Have to pay more, you know, because there's so much streaming involved.
Okay.
And now essentially every website is going to be charged the same, which is, and I guess the concern, which equality always sounds good.
Yeah.
You know, which is what they're trying to pass this as. But it's going to hurt like smaller startups because they're going to have to be paying the same as like Netflix and Amazon and all the major.
So it's actually the websites. It affects them, the people who are controlling these businesses, not the consumers. Is that what you're saying? Because like I just got, you know, I got Netflix and I got the WWE Network, and I was really excited that we were going to start streaming shows and stuff at my house. But what I noticed was that my internet connection or speed was too slow for it to handle the streaming, especially since sometimes I would be watching a show on the Chromecast in my room. My kids would be watching a show on the Amazon Fire Stick on Netflix in the living room. And since we were both streaming at the same time, then everything would just buffer. And so it was getting really frustrating to us. So we went ahead and called Comcast, and we upgraded, paying, you know, however much more a month for the extreme, like most high-speed internet that they offer. And so, and I'm, you know, I'm obviously wrong, but I thought that it had more to do with people being able to buy into faster speeds of internets or faster internet programs.
I think there's an element of that to it also, but I think part of what factors into how fast the WWE Network streams into your house is how much they're paying the ISPs to provide that service. So I think it kind of works on both sides of it.
Now, on the surface, it seems like this hurts Comcast, Verizon, anybody that would be an internet service provider. Like, you know, because I've heard a lot of people talking about, well, now they can't monopolize these markets and, you know, take total control because the government's regulating it. And so, like, but to me, does it really hurt them, or does it hurt where cable seems to be moving? So, like, you know, when HBO Go launches their streaming service, WWE Network's obviously got its thing. And it seems like there's a movement growing for people who are wanting streaming sessions online or standalone from their cable packages because they don't want to continue to pay these exorbitant fees that cable companies tend to charge us. Especially once your promotional deal ends, and then you have to call and haggle and try and get a little bit more bang for your buck. So I could see a situation, and I don't know, this is just me crying conspiracy, and I don't know enough about this topic, but could these bigger companies have gone and lobbied to government to put this into play? That way, people like Netflix and people who would, I guess, be considered competitors then of your modern cable conglomerates, so that it hurts their business and causes them to have to rethink their price infrastructure and how much they can offer these streaming services for and whatever, so that they get more business consistent on the cable end. Do you think that that's any truth to that, or?
I think it's actually the opposite. I think it's the competitors that are trying to get this passed to take power away from
Netflix?
Yeah.
And so, okay.
Yeah, because basically the simplest explanation I can give is that, you know, this is kind of an anti-big business thing, is why this passed. But now anything that big business was doing that people didn't like, the government's going to be doing. You know, I mean, they're going to be controlling the rates and the taxes and the fees of everything involved. And
okay. Well, I made a comment, you know, on Facebook and on Twitter that if a government-regulated internet is going to move as slowly as government itself moves, then we're in for a real treat. Because when has government ever made things more efficient?
Right. This is the same government that couldn't build a website for healthcare.
Yeah. And like I said, I eventually went to that healthcare website and bought health insurance. And it was only more affordable because the actual plan that I purchased was significantly more expensive than the one that I had in the past had through work. But the coverage was better and everything. But it was significantly more expensive, and the only way that it became cheaper for me was that they offered a tax credit for 2/3 of the cost. So 2/3 of the cost will, and I have yet to see how that will affect my taxes next year, having taken that tax credit in order to get that insurance.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes, but they're not really in the business of making things more affordable. They say they are. They say they make things more fair. They say they make things more affordable. But, I mean, I have a feeling that even though it's benefiting us now, it's probably going to come back to bite us in the butt just because I know the nature of government and how they work.
Yeah. To me, this is a really big power grab. And let's be honest, the NSA has already been reading everything we put on the internet anyway, and now the government's going to be controlling all the regulations.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, and someone said to me the other day, they were like, yeah, it could be. Actually, it might have been David, because we went to lunch together the other day, and I said, yeah. So apparently, the internet, or the people who put this into place, they said everything will still be fully accessible on the internet. All legal things will still be fully accessible. And so they put that in there, like all legal things. So now that the government is controlling it, anything that is not legal in the eyes of the government will then be removed. So while they're trying to protect free speech and all this stuff, they're probably going to hunt some things down. And David made the comment, yeah, it's all fair, but then let Edward Snowden try to put out his own webpage.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, there's your catch, right? Because all of those things that he's leaked in the past, or WikiLeaks or whatever, will they actually be able to get stuff out to the people the same way, or will these government regulations somehow prevent that stuff from making its way out?
I mean, they can tell us everything's going to be accessible, but they also told us we could keep our coverage if we liked it, and that turned out not to be the case.
Yeah, that's true. Gosh, I mean, it just seems like a sad day. And I worry, we air and we stream. The CAP podcast kind of works in cooperation with the We Are Libertarians podcast and WeAreLibertarians.com. Websites like that who have a somewhat anti-government tone to their narrative. I wonder if that will be something that is not able to have the same kind of voice and the same kind of reach in the long run as a result of this.
Not to mention, the day that this happened was the same day that the internet went crazy over a white and gold dress.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that's got to be a bad omen.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I made the comment that we're all looking at the same internet essentially, but we all have different ideas about what color this dress is.
Right.
And I said, man, I blame net neutrality for this all day long, because as soon as the government takes over, we're all seeing different stuff on the same internet.
Yep. And it was white and gold. I don't want to hear any different.
It was white and gold. I agree. Yeah, these people with the black and blue are just insane. You CAP listeners who thought that dress was black and blue, shame on you. Take off your sunglasses, your blue blockers. Speaking of blue blockers, you remember the rap jingle?
Yeah.
I used to, I don't know why, that's one of those like 90s commercials. It was so cheaply made, but I still remember.
Right.
But yeah, what else do you want to talk about today aside from net neutrality? We kind of got off on a shame on government rant, and they'll probably take this off. You won't be able to hear this portion of the podcast. It'll just sound like radio silence because they've taken over. So any dissenting voices.
But one thing I did want to mention, I know this happened a couple weeks ago, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. Sony and Marvel have worked out a deal where Marvel can actually use Spider-Man in their Avengers movies now.
I saw that, and I didn't read too much into it. I knew you'd tell me about it, but are they going to make another origin story movie?
All they've said, basically the way the deal works is Sony's going to keep making the individual Spider-Man films.
Okay.
But they'll have producers from Marvel on set to kind of help make it feel like it's connected to the Avengers universe.
Okay.
And they've said they're going to send them back to high school, but they haven't actually used the phrase origin story.
Right.
So that's kind of up in the air.
Man, because that second Spider-Man movie just wasn't that great with Andrew Garfield. First one was cool. Second one, not so much.
But yeah, so now Marvel can use Spider-Man in the Avengers movies, and the next Captain America is going to be Civil War. which the comics Spider-Man plays a big part in.
You said that was the one where he takes off his mask.
He takes off his mask and reveals he's Peter Parker to the world.
Yeah.
And then also Avengers 3 and 4 is supposed to be the Infinity Wars, which Spider-Man was a big part of those also.
Okay.
So this allows Marvel to make those movies better. And
Right.
hopefully, and I guess Sony's banking on, if it's connected to that Marvel universe, that it would help the Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably a good business move. I wonder how the profits are being split when the box office, when it actually shows up at the box office, how much Sony's going to get a piece of that pie and how much Marvel will take away.
My understanding is Sony is still funding the individual Spider-Man films, so I think they just basically have to pay a fee to like the producers they have on set.
Okay.
And then I'm assuming Marvel's keeping most everything from the Avengers movies. I doubt there's a whole lot of sharing going on with that.
And the Captain America movie, I'd
Right.
imagine.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But and if I can throw one more thing out there, there's
Yeah.
already talk that we may see a brief appearance of Spider-Man in the Avengers movies that's coming out in May.
Okay.
But people are guessing it may just be like one of the post-credit scenes, something real quick, because it's too late to do anything really involved at this point. But
Any idea who they're going to cast for the part?
none whatsoever. There's talk that they may actually go after an African American though.
Really?
Yeah.
Has there ever been an African American Spider-Man in the comics?
In the what they call the Ultimate Universe, there's Miles Morales is Spider-Man, who's half Latino and half African American.
Okay.
But my understanding is they're keeping Peter Parker, but they may throw an African American out there.
Kind of like they're doing with Johnny Storm in the new Fantastic Four flick.
Right.
What is his name? Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan.
Man, that guy's he's a good pick.
He gets rumored for everything.
Yeah.
You know, whenever there's a superhero movie come out, there's almost a joke on the internet, the comments that people are going to say,
really?
Michael B. Jordan.
He's a good actor, though.
He is.
I mean, I've seen several things that he's been in. Friday Night Lights. He did a good job on that. Parenthood did a real good job on that. He's had a few movies that were solid. But, you were complaining about the Fantastic Four teaser trailer that they showed online. So something tells me you're not too sold on this yet, huh?
No, because...
What is it?
It's not really based on the Fantastic Four comics. They're going more for what they call the ultimate Fantastic Four, because Marvel has what they call their Ultimate universe, which is like completely separate, and so it's not going to be the origin story everybody's familiar with. So they're going to like an alternate reality, and that somehow causes them to get their powers. And
okay, so it's not the traditional or the classic story,
right?
Okay. Well, that kind of wraps us up for time. We're going to go ahead and tip the cap for the week. And the last episode we did was the celebrity hygiene episode, wasn't it?
Yes.
So this episode was a ton more serious.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, we get such a broad...
I like that we can go anywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it can be that one week, and fans probably walk away shaking their heads. And hopefully this week when we talk about these kind of topics, people are very engaged in the discussion. And if I know people like Travis Wyke and who are some of our other more notable listeners, I guess.
I get feedback from Tom McDonald and Eric Seymour a lot. So
they probably scream at the podcast because there's things that we're not saying. Because we just come in here and we kind of wing it.
Yeah.
And it's all off the top. I mean, I try not to even read the stories. So that I can give my natural reaction to the things that I'm hearing, and so that's how we format the show. And they're probably like, "Oh, you didn't bring up this point. This is a really good point that you should have stressed." And hey, they should probably come join the show sometime.
Yeah,
you guys are always welcome. Give us a call or send us a Facebook message or whatever. And if you want to make the trip up, you can sit here in the all-important Cap Studios. I will tell you that there is a popcorn machine.
Yes.
And also a giant cardboard cutout of popcorn, which is kind of fun to look at while we're recording. But Jason, who are you going to tip the cap to this week?
I want to tip my cap to J.K. Simmons.
Okay.
He played J. Jonah Jameson in the first Spider-Man franchise.
All right. Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, he won an Oscar this past week for Best Supporting Actor, and that means there's now 3 Oscar winners in that first Spider-Man movie.
And who are they? Tobey Maguire?
No, J.K. Simmons, who just won.
Yeah.
Cliff Robertson, who played Uncle Ben, won one back in like the 60s.
Okay.
And this is the one that nobody will guess. Octavia Spencer, who won from The Help.
From The Help.
Yeah, a couple
She
years
was in
ago.
that movie?
She had a very small role. She was the lady that when Peter Parker was signing up for the wrestling match, said, "There's no featherweight division here, kid."
Oh,
She-
really?
Yeah, she had a very tiny role.
I didn't even realize she was in that. Wow. Wow. It's really funny how you see like actors who are a little bit more prominent now and they're in movies like Mark Pellegrino.
Yeah.
Okay, he's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Lost and he was in Supernatural and he played like pretty prominent characters toward the end of the series. And he's been in a million TV shows. But I was watching National Treasure recently, and in the end scene of the first movie where the cops were making the arrest on the villain, he was just one of the random cops that was like handcuffing the guy to the car. And I was like, hey, that's Jacob. So it's funny. They get these small roles, and then they kind of eventually grow into the actors that they become.
Well, because he was on the Tomorrow People.
Yeah.
And he's one of those people that when you see him, it's like, God, who is that guy?
Yeah.
So I Googled him. I looked him up on IMDb, and he was actually in No Holds Barred.
Was he really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was that old.
Yeah.
That movie's what
was from
that,
the
like
80s.
the 80s?
Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, he's done a ton of stuff, and it's like every credit you see for him, it's like, oh, he's that guy.
Yeah.
He's that guy. He's just.
Speaking of the 80s, my daughter the other day, she was on Instagram. Well, she wasn't on Instagram, but I took a picture and I told her to pick a filter. And she's like, you got to make it black and white so it looks really old, like it's from the 80s. And I was like, oh, no. Black and white is not the 80s.
Right.
So the kids think we're old, and that's all there is to it. But I'm going to tip my cap to, there's this show called Fresh Off the Boat. And it's about this Asian family. It's a true story. The guy who narrates it is also like the writer, I think, and he put the show together. But the Asian family that moves over, and they move to Florida, basically, and they open this like country western steakhouse, and it's about all the crazy stuff that his family goes through. But as he's a young boy, and this is in the 90s, so he's like listening to gangster rap, and the whole show has got this gangster rap soundtrack, and he's wearing like Biggie shirts and Cypress Hill shirts, and his little Asian kid wearing all these hip hop artists all over his shirts. The soundtrack is phenomenal. If you're the kind of person that likes that music like I am, the comedy is hilarious. If you like the Blackish Modern Family style of comedy, like it kind of falls in that same league. And it's just, I think it's only like 5 or 6 episodes in, but it's been really well put together so far. I've enjoyed it. So to everybody involved in making that thing happen, I think that's a very funny show. I hope it continues on and it doesn't get canceled like so many network shows do. So
I haven't seen it, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, you got to check it out. And with that, episode 24 comes to a close. We will tip the cap to you and see you next time.